I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Go to your witnesses.
I'm here only to respond to questions of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, members, Bill Kraus representing the National Marine Manufacturers Association, the Marina Recreation Association, the California Association of Harbor Masters and Port Captains, California Yacht Brokers Association, and the Worldwide Boater Safety Association in support. Thank you.
And just to clarify, that includes the acceptance of the amendments.
That does include the acceptance of the amendments, and I do thank your committee for the willingness to work towards them.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. The chair's recommendation is aye. There's a motion and a second. Anybody would want to say anything? Seeing none. We did not say other witnesses in support, and we will take witnesses in opposition if there is any.
Greg Geisen, Recreational Boaters of California, in support.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Chair's recommendation is aye. Please call the roll.
Assemblymember Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Dolly?
Aye.
Dolly, aye. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Hadley?
Aye.
Hadley, aye. Harper?
Thank you.
McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Rendon? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wood? Wood, aye. Got 7.
Thank you, members.
I believe your bill is apt.
Item 19, AB 1063. Right? Wait.
That's fine. I can go in that order. California is a leader in progressive waste reduction policies, yet our landfill tipping fees do little to drive materials to higher and better uses. This is partially due to the fact that tipping fees are so low that they offer little disincentive to landfilling. For example, the existing fees are insufficient to discourage the disposal of organic waste, as gate fees at composting facility are higher than disposal fees at a landfill, which doesn't make sense. Further, as the state moves towards the 75% diversion goal, the resulting reduction in disposal will cause a sharp decline in tipping fee revenue, which supports CalRecycle's oversight of disposal and recycling. This bill is needed, requires CalRecycle to develop a legislative proposal for a new fee structure that will specifically address 1, incentivizing organics recycling, 2, necessary resources to achieve 75% recycling, and sustainable funding structure for the department. Members, we all kind of support this 75% goal. We all know that there's also gaming of the system going on. CalRecycle does not have a revenue source to adequately enforce those that goal, and so it is important that we look at it from multiple directions. With that, I have 2 witnesses.
You got 2 minutes.
Nick Lapis with Californians Against Waste. CalRecycle statutory tip fee has been flat for 20 years now. In that time, not only has it not been adjusted for inflation, but also the amount disposed has gone down significantly. As we move towards 75%, we're going to have even less being disposed, but a greater role for CalRecycle in terms of new programs and new incentives and new tasks that we give them with every bill that comes through this committee. So this bill, as currently written, basically sets up a framework to have that conversation, to have all the stakeholders at the table, and it still is definitely a work in progress. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Justin Mullen for the local environmental health directors. We're the local enforcement agency, so we're the mini-me's of CalRecycle, and we're the folks that do all the local programs, and it's just as important for the locals to be able to be there to incentivize the policy changes, and we urge your aye vote.
Other witnesses in support?
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club California in support.
Christopher Castillo on behalf of the city and county in San Francisco in the office of Mayor Ed Lee in support.
Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Members? Comments? Questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to do pass to approves.
Which one will you start with?
Call the roll. Whoops, sorry. Oh, excuse me. Would you like to close, sir?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. That's the right way to do it.
Assemblymember Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Dolly?
Not voting.
Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Hadley?
Aye.
Hadley, aye. Harper?
No.
Harper, no. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Rendon? Stone? Aye. Oh, Rendon? No. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Wood? Aye. Wood, aye. 6 aye votes.
So it's out.
Yeah.
Bill's out. I'd like to take up item number 4, which is AB 356.
First, I'd like to accept the committee's suggested amendments. Not shocking. On February 6th, Dogger disclosed that 2,500 wells, more than 2,000 of which are active, are currently permitted to inject gas and oil waste and other fluids into aquifers that may be protected sources of drinking water in violation of the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act. AB 356 would require groundwater monitoring near Class 2 injection wells in order to protect underground sources of drinking water from oil and gas wastewater disposal and enhanced oil recovery treatments. Additionally, this bill requires that the State Board provide written concurrence prior to aquifer exemptions being submitted by Dogger to U.S. EPA to ensure that injection into drinking water sources never happens again. By including the Water Board in the aquifer exemption process, it ensures that the state's water quality experts are included in the decisions that affect California's drinking water supply.
Witnesses, you have 2 minutes each, a total of 4. You can divide them up how you want. Have a motion?
Thank you, Chair and committee members and author. My name is Andrew Grinberg. I'm the Oil and Gas Program Manager for Clean Water Action. We're very proud to support and sponsor AB 356 and thank Assemblymember Williams for introducing it. The failures of Dogger to implement the UIC, or Underground Injection Control Program, are now well documented in the media, have been discussed at great length in this building. Dogger has displayed an inability to implement federal law, oversee an effective permitting process, or manage its own records and data. This bill, though, is not an attack on Dogger or an attempt to shut down any operations. It's a common sense measure that ensures that these problems will never happen again and that we protect our dwindling water supply. In the midst of this unprecedented drought emergency, the reform of this program is urgent. The groundwater monitoring portion of this bill is actually just building on the success of Senate Bill 4, which passed with bipartisan support in 2013 and requires similar monitoring for fracked wells. The State Board is well on their way to implementing those requirements successfully, and in fact, that monitoring program is how we even learned that the over 2,500 injection wells mentioned earlier were permitted to illegally inject toxic wastewater and other fluids into protected aquifers. This measure builds on SB 4 to include injection projects in that groundwater monitoring program, which would fill a key gap in oversight that the SB 4 statewide study has already identified. The monitoring required in this bill is not meant to be a burden on industry, as one of the opposition letters asserted. It is necessary, though, to protect the most important and scarce resource in our state, our drinking and irrigation water supply. This is a common sense bill that will improve oversight, and for that reason, Clean Water Action and our 50,000 members urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Next witness, please.
Bill Alio for the Environmental Working Group. This bill gives some needed structure to Dogger when they were given this by EPA. Because they don't have an oil and gas commission or public hearings, there's that lack of structure, transparency, and therefore accountability, so things got messed up. I think this AB 356 will give needed structure to Dogger and make it more transparent and accountable. Thank you.
Next witness.
Good afternoon. Steve Wallach on behalf of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors. We're in support of this bill because large portions of Ventura County are dependent on groundwater, not only for residential use, but also for their extensive agricultural industry. So we think these protections are necessary in order to prevent any kind of accidents, and we urge your support for this bill.
Witnesses in support, simply state.
Mr. Mayor, Chair, members, as we did with 1490 earlier today, we support this bill to ensure protection of critical water sources.
Jenna Price on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters. We think that the accountability and oversight placed in this bill of the agency is much needed to protect our crucial groundwater supply and resources. So we ask that you support. Thank you.
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club California in strong support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Seeing none, those who wish to speak in opposition. You have a total of 2 minutes apiece.
Mr. Chairman and members, Eloy Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association. We are in opposition to the bill. Let me just say that one thing that we need to clarify is whether this bill is intended to replace the aggressive corrective action and corrective plan that the State Water Resource Control Board and the Division of Oil and Gas have submitted to U.S. EPA, and which has been accepted by U.S. EPA. So to the extent that there is an issue with the UIC program, Governor Brown and his administration are aggressively moving to address it. And in fact, many of the corrective actions, including the drinking water protection evaluation, well shut-ins to the extent that they're necessary, aquifer exemption process, all of these actions will take place this year within the next couple of months and will be completed long before this legislation would ever take effect or be enacted. So I think it's something that you should wrestle with, and it's a very important point. Do we mean to replace the existing program, or do we mean to derail it? Because it is what you will do. If you put in place a new program that is different than the corrective action that's being taken right now by, I think as one of the proponents said, the state water drinking experts, the State Water Resource Control Board. They are, in fact, the ones who submitted the corrective action plan to U.S. EPA. So think very clearly about whether this, again, is meant to derail the existing action plan by Governor Brown and his administration. So one of the proponents said this program is not meant to stop production. I suggest that it will have the effect of stopping production. If you are proposing that we have a water monitoring plan for every well, you are proposing to inundate the department and the division with data which they cannot handle. And I would say, furthermore, once the corrective action is put in place, you're going to have an aquifer exemption process that is clearly outlined, detailed, and starts with sign-off by the Water Board, which clearly states that in order to have an exemption for an aquifer, the aquifer cannot now be used for drinking water, cannot in the future be used for drinking water, is compromised because it's a hydrocarbon-bearing zone. So the question ought to be, what are you monitoring for?
Please wrap up your comment.
You're monitoring or proposing to monitor in aquifers that are in oil fields. You're going to find hydrocarbons in that water. Lastly, last year's SB 1281 requires oil producers to provide extraordinary amount of information to the State Water Board. SB 1281 is going to provide so much information, the first of the report coming out within the next quarter, that you're going to have a lot of detailed information about groundwater in oil fields. What you need is more detailed information about freshwater aquifers. And the administration is proposing legislation to do just that this year. That's the information you need that will be useful to oil producers to know where to stay away from oil wells. It'll be important to the administration. You're proposing in this bill to instead get detailed information about aquifers in oil fields.
Thank you.
Thank you. We oppose the bill. Thank you.
Next witness, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. P. Anthony Thomas, California Independent Petroleum Association, or SIPA. The bill calls for many things. It calls for reporting, it calls for reviews, it calls for authorizations, and it calls for written concurrences. But nowhere in the bill that I've seen, and I'll be glad to be educated on this, I've not seen where timelines have been instituted nor deadlines for the agencies to respond, nor does it say anywhere in the proposal if production is allowed during this waiting period. Now, there's been some comments that it doesn't, but again, unless it's in here, this actual document, we can only assume that, in fact, it does delay production. Specifically, page 6 of the bill, section 2, line 14 and 15, we currently do what the bill states. DOGGR and the state have entered into a MOU. The state board has deferred to DOGGR, but will now take an active review and approval role. Let's take page 6 of the bill, section 2, line 29, section 3132. The bill calls for a division to annually review all projects that are approved. There are thousands of UIC projects. So far, for what reason is this being offered as a solution? What are you going to check? How many are you going to check? It doesn't state in the bill itself. This is a policy issue here.
30 seconds.
In fact, the 212 Doggers letter responding to the EPA laid out and enhanced aspects of the project reviews that will be conducted annually. Members, there are a lot of holes in this bill. Now, we understand who is the author of this bill, and we expect that it will likely move on. But from a policy standpoint, there are a bunch of problems with this bill that need to be worked out, that we can point out and point to that has not been answered. SIPA remains in opposition and asks for your no vote.
Thank you. Others in opposition, please state your name, affiliation, and your...
Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, opposed to the bill.
Anthony Sampson, California Chamber of Commerce, also opposed.
Seeing no other witnesses in opposition, I'll bring it back for members. We do have a motion by Mr. Stone. Do we have a second for the bill? I have a second by Mr. Rendon. Okay, questions by members? Seeing none, would you like to close?
I'll only answer a couple of the charges here. One is this does not conflict with the agreement between the state board and in compliance with the US EPA. It codifies that agreement with the addition of well testing. You really can't implement it without well testing. The other question was, would this stop operations? Current operations that are under review would continue to operate. It is a requirement of a new permit. So new permits, I suppose, might be delayed by this requirement. But I think, members, when we're in the middle of a drought, we don't want a source of water that could be used for agriculture or even for drinking water to be contaminated. And without the requirement to test, we're never going to know that. And so, members, this is not a moratorium bill. I am just trying to figure out if there's anything, no matter how reasonable it is, that can get through the assembly on the subject of oil that doesn't have the name Pavley behind it, and understand whether we can come up with a reasonable limitation to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because leaving it up to Dogger, an agency, if you ask them how this happened, they will tell you, we don't know, because they don't know how this mistake happened. We need to leave it up to the board. They have the expertise.
Thank you. The motion is due pass with amendments to appropriates. Would you please call the roll?
Assemblymember Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Dolly?
No.
Dolly, no. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Hadley?
Not voting.
Harper?
No.
Harper, no. McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. Rendon? Rendon, aye. Stone? Stone, aye. Wood? Wood, aye. Got 6 aye votes.
Bill's out, 6 aye votes. We'll take up your last bill, which is AB 1094.
It's got 2 more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wish that were true. But let's just say
He has one more after this. No.
we have 2 more bills.
2 more.
Hopefully they're less controversial than the previous one. I will present AB 1094, which directs the CEC to set goals for reduction in energy consumption by plug-in equipment. The bill would require the CEC and the PUC working jointly using existing data and funding studies to set goals for plug-in equipment efficiencies. And I have a couple witnesses.
Second.
Thank you. Witnesses in support, please keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Pierre Delforge, Natural Resources Defense Council, we're the sponsor of this bill. With more than 50 appliances and devices in the average California home, plug-in equipment now accounts for 2/3 of residential electricity consumption and a large share in commercial. The problem is that there hasn't been the same level of policy action on plug-in equipment as there has been on the buildings themselves. This has important cost implications. For every watt that is wasted by inefficient appliances, it needs to be generated at a much higher cost. At 2/3 of residential consumption, plug-in equipment is an important opportunity to help achieve California's clean energy goals at the lowest possible cost to California's bill payers. In addition to cutting carbon and cost, Low-income families will benefit the most because they often have older and more inefficient appliances, and they spend a larger share of their disposable income on wasted electricity. And last, it will benefit industry in California and jobs by helping develop the market for plug-in equipment, efficiency, technology, and services. For these reasons, we ask for your aye vote.
Members, I'm Bob Raymer, representing the California Building Industry Association. I've also been asked to indicate support on behalf of the California Business Properties Association. The residential and commercial building industry strongly support this bill. It, among other things, places the CEC as the lead entity on the plug load issue, something that they have a great deal of expertise in. More importantly to industry, it directs the CEC to use the informal stakeholder process and the more formal regulatory process that we're very familiar with as moving forward on both the plan and any related regulations. We've been familiar with this process for decades. It is a fair and open process. We may not always agree with what the CEC does, but it is a fair and open process.
Next witness.
Mr. Chair and members, Aaron Niemela representing the California Energy Efficiency Industry Council, also in support of the bill. Thank you.
Justin Malone with the U.S. Green Building Council in California in strong support of the bill.
Other witnesses in support, please state your name and affiliation.
Brian Early on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund in support.
Tamara Raspberry on behalf of the Sempra Utilities, San Diego Gas and Electric, and Southern California Gas Company in support.
Davina Flemings on behalf of PG&E. We are in support.
Nick Papa, Southern California Edison, in support.
Laura Wislin, Union of Concerned Scientists, in support.
Matt Klopfenstein with the Sacramento Municipal Utility District in support.
Kyle Jones, Sierra Club, California in support.
Jenna Price on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters in support.
Witnesses in opposition?
Amber Blix with the Independent Energy Producers Association. We had previously had an opposed position on this bill, but based on our discussions with the sponsor and staff, it looks like the direction that the bill is heading will be able to go to neutral. So thank you very much.
Michael Shaw with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I understand that the amendments of the bill take out the GHG standard.
Yes, just to clarify, these were amendments requested in UNC. Right. We are adopting them in the motion this committee.
Okay. With that, we'll take a bit to reevaluate the bill. We would note that the CEC already has authority to set standards for appliances, and many of which are in progress as of this time and point, including computers, monitors, and a number of other plug-in appliances. So we'll take a look at that further with the amendments. Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, members have comments or questions? Seeing none, would you like to close, sir?
No. But I still recommend an aye.
The motion is due pass to approach with amends. Please call the roll.
Assemblymember Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Dolly?
No.
Dolly, no. Garcia? Aye. Garcia, aye. Hadley? Aye. Hadley, aye. Harper? No. Harper, no. McCarty? Aye. McCarty, aye. Rendon? Aye. Rendon, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Wood? Aye. Wood, aye. Got 7 aye votes.
Bill's out.